right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself and the state shall not be impaired. That, of course, is Article 1, Section 24 of the state constitution. Madam Speaker, this policy impairs your right to bear arms in defense of yourself and the state. It is unconstitutional. And this bill makes the same mistake that many others do. It assumes that by restricting the choices and options of law-abiding citizens in how they choose to protect themselves, it will somehow affect the behavior of psychopaths and criminals and people bent on making mayhem. They're two different sorts, Madam Speaker. Let's not penalize law-abiding citizens in an effort to deter the actions of criminals. Vote no on the bill, and let's pursue more effective ways to fight crime in our communities.
In Washington State, we have the lowest per capita police in all of the nation. And in my district, the Great 35th, we have the lowest per capita police in Washington. And we simply cannot leave people like the people in my district defenseless against crime. They have to be able to defend themselves. And will this bill or bills like it save any more lives? I'm not convinced that they will.
Washingtonians want this body, want this legislature to address public safety, and we're not doing it with this bill. Moms and dads are concerned about what's really going on out there. Just ask John and Amber, constituents that were down here today, to talk to us about their 12-year-old little girl that was killed 1 year and 1 month ago by a convicted felon with an illegal firearm in a stolen vehicle. Ask them if this bill is addressing their public safety need. Vote no.
I think that this bill fundamentally will punish law-abiding gun owners, and it will not seek to stop criminals in their use of weapons. I believe that this bill violates both the U.S. and Washington State Constitution very plainly. And I believe that with subsequent challenges currently in the court, this bill will be overturned. So to that end, in order for us to combat these things, Madam Speaker, I believe we need to have a renewed focus on criminals and crime and enforcing the law.
As crime, violent crime, murder, rape, aggravated assault, robbery, as these crimes escalate, it's at the exact same time that the amount of law enforcement officers we have to keep us safe and keep themselves safe by protecting each other is down at, as you've heard repeatedly, an all-time low. I really don't want the criminals who harm us and do school shootings to be the only ones standing who still hold an assault rifle and know how to use it properly. Please vote no.
The one unifying statistic is that 65% of mass shootings are committed by those who have criminal history. 67% of those who commit mass shootings have domestic violence in their background. The majority of these mass shootings are done by people with criminal history and signs, terrible signs that we should all have noticed. We can't talk about a mass shooting and an individual who commits it having a criminal history and not go back to the beginning and the fact that our judicial system has allowed that person and failed them, and that the state of Washington in cases has failed them. We relieve them of their victim impact fees so they don't have to pay for their crimes. We lower enhancements for criminals committing gun crimes and drug crimes around schools. And then we talk about mass shootings are done by those who have a criminal history. But what we're doing in a policy is that we're not holding criminals accountable in a state with the least amount of law enforcement officers.
When you hear these horrible, horrible and tragic stories of these gun crimes, they seem to be centered in certain locations. Locations where this policy has actually been for many, many years. That's California. I looked it up. It's one of the deadliest locations in the United States. You are 175% higher to be a victim of a violent crime in Oakland than anywhere else in the United States, Madam Speaker. You have to register all your guns within 60 days. Madam Speaker, in Detroit, 48 out of 100,000 people are victims of violent crimes, and you have to register all your guns within 10 days. And Madam Speaker, in Chicago, you have to possess a firearms owner identification card. And in 2022, there were 637 homicides and 2,600 and some shootings. Madam Speaker, if this policy made anyone safer, it would have done it in these other states, in these other locations where this exact same language is placed on the books. But it's not.